so expensive, we're staying at room 13. Usually airy and usually very, and that's just how my life goes. And I don't ever try to dress to impress. Fuck you, preppy asshole. On the 14th floor where the bathroom door don't lock. So happy we don't gotta worry about the cops. We could all get arrested for this, but when the bodies mix, I don't give a shit tonight. Alright. Now she walks in the bedroom fast, despite all the noise from the crowd. Now she's bedless on the bathroom sink. Her mother would be so proud. Gets on a deed and there's a line to go pee, but the bathroom looks like a war zone.
Welcome in to episode 171 of Phired Up. Check us out at firedupsports.com. I'm Mike Gilletto. Joining me as always, Dom Console. What's going on, man?
Yo, what's going on?
Not much. Really not. It's one of the. I don't remember what happened last. Where was I last weekend? I remember. I couldn't hop on last weekend, so I listened to last week. So listened to you and Chris.
Yes.
I was very bummed I couldn't make it because I had a lot of. I don't know if hot takes are the right word, but I had a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts. Last
On the
week.
Phillies?
Specifically Phillies, yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. I I thought I'd be ready to talk about it at this point.
You're still not there.
Yeah, it's just like oh no, we can, but
Okay.
but it's just like I don't know how much my opinion has changed or not
I'm
changed.
sure it hasn't.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see where I stand today. If you
Okay.
wanted to get into it.
We can get into it. I'm sure we'll talk Eagles, obviously. And then the Flyers kicked off their season. I wasn't able to talk about it last week, so I'm sure we'll get into that as well. Did the Sixers open their season yet? When do they start?
Wednesday.
Were there NBA games this weekend? I vaguely remember seeing NBA games this weekend.
Preseason. Tomorrow night's the first two games. I think it's New York and Boston, and then LA and Minnesota.
Okay.
The first two games.
What?
And then Wednesday there's like a whole big slate.
Right. Before we get into the other stuff, what is your opinion about the whole Embiid not playing back-to-backs thing?
I don't I don't really care that much because I kind of looked into it. I think there are only because did Chris and I talk about this last week? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah. My opinion would probably be that I don't care because I've roughly like scrolled through the schedule. So I might be off by one or two, but like I think there's only like 10 or 11 back-to-backs, and I think if you just combine that with him possibly, what did they play, 82? So like combine that with him missing another like 10 games during the season, it's normal. Like that's his normal 60, 65, 60 games he's going to play anyway. I just think his best abilities are your availability, and I think seeing 100% in the playoffs we haven't seen since probably
I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, you've seen it. The bubble season and the season they lost to Toronto, he was 100%. But we know how the NBA is. Like the NBA is a league where you need to be. It's very, very rare for guys under the age of 28 to lead a team to a 28, 29 to lead a team to like a finals.
Mm-hmm.
I think LeBron made it before 28, but didn't win until he was like 28 or 29. Jordan, the same thing, didn't make it and win it until he was like 28 or 29. There are like maybe like three huge names in the history of the league that like Magic Johnson, Giannis, and like somebody else who've won it before 25. So like that looking at the Toronto series that year, he was like 24, 25. So like seeing him in his physical prime and being healthy, we haven't seen yet. So I think that's the biggest thing that we need to see, and if that's going to help it, then great.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
And a lot of the back-to-backs, are like, listen, I think Orlando's probably going to make the playoffs again this year. They're going to be better. They're not a bad team. They're not a great team, but they're not a bad team. Definitely going to be, I think, a playoff team again. But like, I think one of the back to backs was like Cleveland, who's probably a top 4 in the East, and then the next one's like Orlando. Like, he doesn't have to play against Orlando. Like, they could probably still win that game without him. And there were a couple other back to backs. There was like the Knicks, and then like I forget who it was. It might have been like Chicago or something. Like it was just a team that isn't gonna give them a hard time without Embiid. So like,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there definitely are games like Milwaukee and New York back to back. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm hit or miss because, like you said, we haven't really seen a healthy Joel in however long, and like you need him as close to 100% as possible if you have any chance to do anything in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I just have an old school mentality if you get paid to play the games, but that's why I'm kind of hit or miss. Like I'm somewhere in between.
Yeah,
both sides of it.
I just don't think they want to see Yao Ming. Yao Ming was killed because he was so big, and he was physically unable to do it because he was always hurt because he was so big. I think Joel kind of has that same issue.
Well, for being honest, I think the way his career started, I think he's lasted longer than people expected him to originally.
For me specifically, I'm more shocked at the not that he's lasted this long, but
How good he's been.
how good he's yeah. And he like I think the minutes go down this year. I think obviously the games are going to probably be around the same what they usually are. That's 55 to 65.
Was the team good enough to have his minutes go down?
Well, they have Drummond. That's why I think that's the reason they bring Drummond in. Minutes. What I mean by minutes going down, I mean instead of playing 33, 35 minutes a night,
27, 28.
he'll play 28, 29.
Yeah,
like
right.
they'll go down a little bit. And Drummond is definitely the starting center in this league. But I think they benefit each other. Like I think that Drummond can come here and play his game. I think that he's a very physical player. He gets in a lot of foul trouble, so like that's why he's not a starter in the league. But he's got the talent to do it, and I think that's part of the reason why he came in. When they had him the first time, it was come off the bench, play your game, get in the foul trouble, have your 5 fouls, and then we'll take you out and we'll put Joel back. But I think that's a big reason why they brought him in because they know that they feel like Embiid's minutes are going to go down. The only thing that scares me is like with Drummond is signing Drummond is you could use that money to allocate it to a different position for a playoff run. Like I don't think Drummond's going to play many minutes in the playoffs, maybe like 8 minutes in the playoffs. I just think you could have probably used that money towards something else that'll benefit you in the playoffs. But you got to get there first, right? Like you have to
Exactly.
You can't think that far ahead yet, but
No, but again, with how close they've kind of got, like the regular season, like they're perennial playoff team at this point. Like if you miss the playoffs, it's obviously an epic failure. But like you're trying to get past the second round, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal, I think.
And my whole thing too is like look at the championship teams that we've seen, right? Like even the teams that have made the championship that didn't win, like. You can go back to the 2010 Flyers. You can go back to the 22 Phillies. You can go back to the 08 Phillies, 09. Like there were things that happened that season that you and I don't remember, but like because especially the years that those teams have won, like 08, like they had a really rough July, but like you and I don't remember that because they won, right? Like I think the same thing is going to apply to Embiid, where if they restrict him from playing back to backs and they sit him a little bit. But they get to the playoffs and he plays great in the playoffs and they go on a run and they make a championship or they make the finals or they win the finals. I don't think anybody's going to give a shit.
Nobody cares they didn't play.
Not
games. No chance.
But you have to get there.
That's the big if.
Right?
Are they good enough? Like even with him 100%, are they good enough to win? And I think the top teams in the East probably got better in the offseason.
I think Knicks plateaued. And Boston will see. Will see because like you got a lot out of Derek White last year, and like who was Derek White before last year? Like a journeyman that like Drew Holiday's is 34, like he's another year older. Porzingis, I don't think is starting the season.
You think the Knicks
so big that
only the Knicks got better?
No, I think they plateaued. I don't think you were on the week that, because I think it was just Chris and I, right after that trade that the Knicks made for
Yeah.
Cat. Like I think that they were lacking a true center. Like I don't think Randall's a true center. He's a four. So I think that the positives there were that they got a true center, where like Minnesota gets a true four.
Mhm.
I think Minnesota won that trade personally, and I'm a Cat fan.
I like him a lot.
He's um he he's a pussy, dude. Like that's his big knock, is like he's not he's
First off, when have you ever danced around that word on the show?
yeah, well, I'm trying to I'm trying finish the sentence. I'm trying to
Yeah.
trying to
Who knows?
not be like a sailor cursing a
Right.
sailor,
Yeah, you've hit
No,
fatherhood
but
and you're a changed man.
of course. But yeah, I think he's got all the talent in the world. I think he's a top 5 center, top 3 center, maybe in the league, top 4. But he's also a guy who struggled a lot in his career in big moments mentally. And he's going to a place that's not Minnesota.
Definitely not. Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. He's always been the number 2 on his team. He'll probably be the number 2 still. But like I don't know, does the way that I look at it is, yes, do I think they got better with Bridges? Sure, but do the Knicks scare me the same way with Randall or with Cat? Like I don't know. I don't think
Okay.
I don't think there's much of a difference. But yeah, I don't know. And then we'll see. Like I said, we'll see with Boston. Like Boston's Drew Holiday's a year older.
I can't believe when did he come in the league? Like
Drew
08,
Holiday, like
09?
no,
Yeah, for a long ass time.
34. So 14 years,
Okay.
16 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, probably like 08 or 09.
No.
UCLA kid. But yeah, another year older with Drew. Porzingis has
Like,
health issues because he's big.
When did Iguodala come in the league? Not much before that.
05.
Okay. All right.
Or maybe no, it might have been 04. It might have been 04, 05, something like that. Yeah. The LeBron draft I think was 03.
Mhm.
Iguodala might have been 04, and then Drew was like 09, I think. But yeah, I think Drew was 09 because I think because it was Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love with UCLA tandem, and then they both came out in the same draft in 08, I think, and then 09 I think was
I just
Drew.
think of Drew Holiday as so much older than all those guys you just named. I don't know why. It just feels that way.
Yeah, they're all around the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't really like make a name for himself till like 2011.
Right.
But I don't think he was here. I don't think the Sixers drafted him.
Well, he was kind of through like the process here, wasn't he?
I don't know how they got Drew. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I am somewhat excited for the Sixers just to see what it is.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have my guard up, obviously.
Sure.
But I think they will, and I think they know this. I think if this team that they currently have constructed if the playoffs were to start tomorrow, and they were in, I'm not confident with that. But I like how they're gonna start the season. I'm just very curious because I think that I think their starting 5 is really good. I think that their bench is going to have to get better to compete with the Knicks and the Celtics.
Yeah.
So,
all right, fair enough.
Chelsea.
Yeah,
he's 09, Drew.
Who do we want to win the World Series? God, that's a loaded question. Obviously, I'm just happy the Mets aren't in it. Obviously,
I mean, Dodgers.
I'd probably pick the Dodgers.
And listen, I'm not somebody who is like this Yankee hater. Like I know a lot of people hate the Yankees, especially from Philly. Like a lot of people hate New York and all that. I don't even hate the Yankees. I think Judge might be my favorite like non-Philly. But I've just seen the Yankees win how many championships? Like
See, I'm rooting for the Dodgers because one of my favorite non-Phillies is on the Dodgers. Mookie's just great.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Love Mookie.
I see. I
So
love everybody on both teams. I like. I mean, I used to hate Soto. I like Soto. I think Soto has big balls. I like Judge a lot, but I also like Freddie Freeman. I love Mookie.
I hate Shohei. I'll just put it out there right now.
Really?
Well, I'm still salty from fantasy baseball from a couple weeks
Okay.
ago. That was the week he put up like 17 home runs in the same game and had
Yeah,
like one of
yeah.
the most ridiculous. So I'm still salty about that. I'm
That
tired.
was the
Of Shohei.
50-50, right? The 50
Um,
or 40-40 rather.
no, it
Or was
was.
it 50-50?
Well, I think he hit 50-50 that game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he
Yeah.
hit 50-50 that game. He hit like
Yeah.
I think like 3 or 4 home runs. He had like 5 hits altogether.
I think it was
Had like
3.
10 RBIs or something, or maybe
Yeah.
3 home runs. But yeah, like it was one of the most ridiculous games of all time. And he made me have it that game. But yeah, I think I'm rooting for the Dodgers, especially because like not specifically the Yankees that I have hatred for, but like just New York kind of feeling.
Sure. I mean, listen, I grew up when I was a kid. I played for the Dodgers, so I always have this like since I was like 12 or 13. I've always had this like um infatuation or like this draw to the Dodgers a little bit. If the Phillies were playing them, obviously I want them. You know, they're the worst enemy possible. So that's also part of the reason why I kind of want to see the Dodgers. I love LA.
Mhm.
I
I also
we
have
had a
like
great
a
experience.
I also sure. I also
Yeah,
have like a built-in like hatred for the Yankees from like growing up for whatever reason. I don't remember why. I was like I like the Red Sox in like the early 2000s
yeah,
because they were kind of like a lovable loser before they broke the curse and they won.
sure.
And I obviously was rooting for them in the '04 with the the bloody sock and the 3-0 comeback and all that stuff. Um, and then Fever Pitch, one of my like
I was
greatest
just gonna
shitty
bring that
favorite
up.
movies ever.
Yeah,
Like it's such a
it
it's a
might
bad
be
movie, but
it
it's
might
great
be one of the best movies ever.
ever.
Did you see Jimmy Fallon on Drew
I
Barrymore's
did.
show?
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Some really good stuff.
Yep, I did. But yeah, so for those reasons, I'm going Dodgers.
Okay, I respect it.
But yeah, again, I'm just happy the Mets aren't in it. I don't have to watch. I don't have to watch New York, New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
for
would have been
sure.
insufferable. Like I
Yeah,
think if you're an outsider and there's two teams you don't really care about, like the New York thing could be cool, right? Obviously, you saw it back in what 2001
yeah.
or 2000,
2000.
2000. So obviously, I mean, if you're an outsider and you don't hate either of those teams, it's cool. It's a cool thing, New York, New York. But
Yeah, but
as a
now,
Phillies fan with the rivals, like I don't, I want no parts of that.
yeah, but at the same time, it's really cool to see the two biggest cities in our
Sure.
country, you know, kind of battle it out. They're
Yeah.
really the two best teams this year. I mean, you could argue the Phillies were for a majority of the year. The Phillies were the best, record wise, were the best team in baseball.
From April to July, and then from July to October, it was the Mets.
Yeah, but I'm saying even as a whole, like I know they were
Sure, yeah.
500, like
Yeah.
or close to 500, whatever it was for the second half. But like still, they still had the best record until like the final week and a
Sure.
half or 2 weeks of the season. Like,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, I think this is probably the best possible matchup.
Yeah, I really think it could be a bit. When's the season? When's the series start?
Friday, game 1.
Friday. That's a big layoff.
Yeah, they usually do it like a
Yeah.
good.
Because I think it has a chance to be a pretty good offensive season. I don't think either pitching staff's all that great,
No.
and they both can mash.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I obviously we've seen Garrett Cole have like
Mhm.
issues in the playoffs in his career.
Obviously, Clayton Kershaw. Although I don't even.
Yeah.
What is he like? Is he
I don't think
starting for them?
Kershaw's. I don't know. I think they use bullpen game for his slot.
Yeah. Well, he's older in his career, but even in his prime, he's never been the greatest playoff performer.
Mhm. He's had a couple, but
A couple, but
not too many.
No.
It's Peyton Manning. Like Peyton
Right.
Manning's had a couple playoff games where he's had a really good game, but other than that, like for the most part, nothing.
Like other than Kershaw,
He's
I mean, they have
substantial.
what Walker Bueller. Is there any other guy I'm missing in there? It's up at
Flaherty.
Flaherty, yeah. Which I wanted. I was pounding that drum at the trade deadline. I wanted the Phillies to get.
Yeah. Well, let me see if they have projected pitchers.
Okay.
Doesn't look like it. Oh, wait.
The game 1 doesn't have projected pitchers yet.
I was looking at like game 6.
Oh, well, yeah, I can imagine.
No, they don't.
They
Nothing yet.
don't.
No.
I imagine Cole will go for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Oh, he is projected starter for the Yankees game 1. The Dodgers don't have one yet. A projected starter.
Yeah.
But Cole is projected to go 3.31 ERA in the playoffs.
Yamamoto is probably going to get game 1, right?
He could.
I imagine. Yeah, I think they're going to go because I think the way that they've done it against San Diego and New York was Yamamoto's game 1, Flaherty's game 2, and Buehler's game 3, and then the game 4 is usually a bullpen game.
Start with Kershaw and then kind of yank him.
Did they do that this time around? What did they do yesterday? Or what did they win? The day before?
I don't know. As soon as the Phillies were out, I kind of checked out for baseball for a little while, so I didn't watch any of that. I'm gonna look at Kershaw's game log, see if he pitched at all.
Yeah, so Kopech or something started.
Kopech
game.
Yeah.
Kopech, yeah. Kasparias, I don't know who that is. Banda, Brazier, Phillips, Hudson, and Terrian. I don't know how to say these people's names.
It doesn't even look like Kershaw pitched in the postseason.
No, I don't think he has.
You're not on the roster?
I don't know.
He might not
Is
be
he
on the
hurt?
roster. I don't know. You think we know these things? Because I'm looking at his game log, and his last game pitch was August 30th.
Oh, so then he's probably hurt.
He must be hurt, yeah. All right. Well, there's that. Why is there 2 Monday Night Football games on the night?
I think didn't they do this last week or the week before?
I remember they used to do it like the first week or 2 of the season, and now they just own random weeks in the middle of the season for some reason.
Yeah. They used to do it week 1.
Yeah.
And then a couple years ago, they started doing it week 2. They did that for like 2 or 3. They did it week 2 this year too. Week 1 was only 1 Monday night game, and then week 2 is 2 Monday night games. I think they did this like a week or 2 ago too, like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what they're doing. What game are you watching? What game are you watching?
Tampa.
Yeah, it's the better game, obviously.
Yeah. Tampa, Baltimore.
That's the better game over Chargers, Cardinals.
Yeah.
All right, Eagles. What so they win in kind of a blowout fashion. The Giants were never really in it. Saw some good things from the defense. I don't know if that's because I'm going to try to be positive because every week we come on here and we kill the Eagles, we bash them, and I could come on here and still bash them and say, "All right, congrats, you beat a shitty Giants team." But we're trying to be positive.
You know what's so funny?
Go ahead.
Is usually it's the other way around. But I think today it's going to be the opposite.
What do you mean?
Like I think you're going to give them. Go ahead, finish. Go ahead.
Well, okay. I thought the defense showed some promising signs. Right.
Okay.
I think they got to again. This could all be because the Giants suck. That's a very, very, very big possibility.
No. I don't want you to lose this. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay. I saw some really good things. They got to the quarterback, which is good. They got pressure. It seemed like they finally kind of knew how to tackle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, Saquon. When you hand the ball to Saquon, good things will happen. That's what they learned.
Shocker.
Yes. Well, it's been hard for them for the first handful of weeks. And AJ Brown is a top 2 wide receiver in the league.
Okay.
Who's
better?
Maybe 3. I still give it to Jefferson. Personally.
Okay. The reason I wanted you to keep going is because I'm going to be the opposite.
Okay. That's on the offense. That's kind of where I stop because I still don't think Jalen Hurts is it.
Well,
go ahead. Give us your opposite. There you
go. It's the Giants and the Browns. They have me playing offensive line.
Fair enough. But you You
It
beat
was
the
more
team you're
encouraging
supposed
this
to
week
beat.
than it was last week.
Agreed.
I'll absolutely say
100%.
that.
Yep. Because you kind of limped to a win against the Giants or against the Browns.
Correct.
Whereas like the Giants, yeah, they're a shitty football team, but you were in control for the entire game.
I will give credit where. Well, here's the thing: like the defense has played great 3 games this year, and
Yeah.
all 3 of them were against bottom 7 offenses in the league.
Giants,
Saints,
Browns, and Saints. Yep.
yeah.
Well,
So
you say that, but the Saints matchup was coming off of like leading up to that week. People were throwing Carr into the MVP conversation. Like, they were the first 2 weeks they were destroying teams.
Sure, but I don't think that they were that team the first 2 weeks. I don't.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listen. It feels good to wake up on a Monday and win. What did they win? 28-3.
28-3, which is funny because like it felt like so much more. Like it's not that crazy of a blowout,
Yeah.
but like you got every starter out of the game in the fourth quarter. And
Right.
The team's not that like that away, but the Giants had nothing.
Right. I will give credit to the defense. What's that? 2 straight games they didn't give up a touchdown on the defense. But again, it's just like it's the Giants are so bad. And
Yep.
but here's the promising thing is that look, going into the season, I think you, me, Chris, I think a lot of people expected them to be better at this point than what they are. Right? Like even if they were 4-2, I think that the losses would have been. If you would have told me earlier before the season, I would have them at probably 7-0 at this point, 6-0, whatever it is at this point. But if you told me before the season they would be 4-2 after this game, my thought would be, okay, the 2 losses were just like, a hard fought game,
Yeah.
right? And there wasn't too many controversial things going on. But I will say, this past week or 2 weeks really this week they look like that team that I expected a little bit. And it's good to win against teams that you should win against. And not only did they win, they technically I guess blew them out. Like they haven't had this kind of a win probably in 2 years. I know the Miami game last year and the
Denver?
Tampa. The Tampa.
Or was that 2 years ago?
Denver, I don't think they played last year, but
2 years ago. I'm thinking
the Tampa.
I think it was a Super Bowl year. The year I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, the Tampa game, the first game, it was like week 3, Monday Night Football, and the Miami game last year I think they were both 14-point wins. So this was a little bit bigger of a margin, and like I don't think they've had. I think I was listening to Ray Didinger today at some point, and he said that they haven't had a win this big in like since 2022. So that's encouraging. You're supposed to beat the bad teams and not only beat them, but win by a big margin,
Dominate.
Yeah, and it kind of felt like they did that for the most part. It kind of really felt like Jalen Hurts' offense, or the offensive. Yeah, I guess Jalen Hurts. It definitely felt like a game management kind of performance.
He game managed, and then what's his name? Barkley breaks one run that for 50 yards or whatever it was to get them in, to drive, and then AJ Brown takes control of the other one. Like other than those 2 plays, the offense really didn't do a whole lot.
Sure, and I thought the AJ Brown throw, it was a great throw. I know a lot of people are arguing it today. It goes back to if Saquon catches it in week 2, we're not talking about it, but I personally am still concerned about it. I'm still concerned about the throw. I know it was a great throw. I know he has the one-on-one coverage, but 4th down, at the halfway the field mark, like I don't think that's a smart football play. And even though it worked out, he obviously scores a touchdown on it. Like I just don't think that that's the right play. And I actually put that more on Hurts than the coach. But does that mean that see here's my issue? But all right, before I get to my issue, let me finish my other point. I think that it was a good win against a bad team, and I think you always need those, right? Like let's look at the Phillies 2 years ago. I wouldn't say this year because they dominated against bad teams and lost against good teams. My point that I'm trying to make is last year the Phillies hit June, and they played like 5 bad teams in a row, and they went on a winning streak, and they took that and played well against good teams after that. I think that helps. So hopefully the Eagles can do something like that. Where they beat.
I personally think they're going to get destroyed next week. But
Who do they play? Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
It's. But so I'm kind of hoping that kind of plays a factor. Maybe they just they beat two bad teams. They crush one of them, and hopefully they go into next week with momentum. I think also another big positive with Jalen Hurts is it's 2 straight games without a turnover now. And that's something he's really struggled with this year. And I think that if you can run the football and you could take the pressure off of him a little bit, it works wonders. That being said, I don't know if this is a Jalen Hurts problem or a Philadelphia Eagles problem, like a Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore problem, but it really feels like the third down, because I think, what was it, last week they were like, I think their percentage, their first down, or I forget what it was. It was like they were like 3 and 14 on third down last week or something. I think that's a big problem still.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's a Jalen Hurts problem or an Eagles problem. I don't know, because if you look at teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, and I know the Chiefs and the Lions are the 2 best teams in the league, blah 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 blah, but it just feels like 3rd and 3, 4th and 3, they have plays drawn up for certain guys, for certain packages, and they always execute. And like, I get it, good teams always execute, blah 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 blah. But like, you can even look at Tampa, who or in Baltimore, who are probably some of the better teams, both 4 and 2. Like, they're the better teams, but they're not as good as Kansas City or Detroit. They also on third down have certain packages for certain players on their team, certain playmakers that tend to work out. And I just don't think the Eagles have that. And
it's definitely not lack of playmakers. Like, that, obviously,
correct.
they're all over. Like,
So I don't know if it's that Jalen Hurts doesn't know how to read defense or doesn't know how to check out of things, or obviously we've what's so weird is we've seen him struggle with it, and then we've also seen him perform well at it. So like, I don't know if it's just a Jalen Hurts thing. I don't know if it's a Nick Sirianni thing. I don't know if it's a Kellen Moore thing or I don't know what it is.
well, I think it's
But
fairly
it's frustrating.
obvious. I think it's fairly obvious that, like, even with a new coordinator, this is still Sirianni's offense. Like, it looks exactly the same.
I agree with you. There's somebody on our show that's not on this week that doesn't, but
Okay.
so him and I have been arguing, and
Yeah. It looks looks the exact. I'm seeing a little tiny bit of like pre-snap motion, but like very, very, very rarely.
So there's an argument to that too, where if Nick Sirianni goes that, because Chris and I have argued it, and I think it was the show like 2 weeks ago or something, or
Mm-hmm.
or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, that it was just him and I, and
I had a game one night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of duked it out a little bit over it, where
You guys were fired up that episode. I enjoyed it.
Yes. So
The whole episode is
so he doesn't think so. Him and I think also texted about it a little bit too, where I told him, I said, even if it is Kellen Moore's offense and Kellen Moore is calling the plays and it's all him, Nick Sirianni hired Kellen Moore, right? And his argument was, well, no, it was Howie Roseman.
Moore, I was about to ask that question.
But what happened? Jeffrey Lurie said, you have 10 days to come back to me with a list. I'm going to come back, and if I decide to hire you back, you need to come back with 10 names, or whatever it was.
True, yep, that is correct.
Nick Sirianni wrote Kellen Moore's name. Did he give it to Howie Roseman, and Howie Roseman made the final decision? Probably. But he still wrote it on his list.
Mm-hmm.
He still put him on there. So that counts. Like, that counts for you hiring Kellen Moore. So if this is Kellen Moore's offense, that's also on Nick Sirianni for bringing that in. He has shown you twice now that he is not very good at picking coordinators. And the Shane Steichen thing, I think I said this to him on the show.
I don't know if sorry, I don't know if it's a Sirianni picking Kellen Moore issue, because like Kellen Moore has been in 2 other places where he's had good offense. He's succeeded. Like, it just looks like a different version of Kellen Moore that we've gotten here that he's been in other places.
Well, yeah, I'm actually that's going to be my point at the end. What was I saying here? So that's 2 people. That's 2. I don't even count Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. Obviously we've had issues with Jonathan Gannon here, but like, their defense was one of the best defenses in the league in 2022.
It
But-
hasn't gotten much better since he left. to be
Correct.
fair.
So the Shane Steichen and Gannon thing, they were three best friends that basically said whoever gets hired, we're just gonna hire the other two. And
We're the three
You know,
best friends
right.
that anybody could have.
so I don't think he gets credit for that because I think that's what was gonna happen anyway. And those guys leave, and you replace them with what's his name? Jalen's coach growing up. That was the offensive coordinator last year.
Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson. I wanted to call him Ben Johnson, but that's the Lions.
Close enough.
But that's the Lions offensive coordinator,
I know.
the guy that I want next year. But
Yep.
one of the two guys.
But isn't Brian Johnson like somewhere else and like the offense is succeeding? Like really,
the
where did he
quarterback's
go?
coach. He's a quarterback
Is that what
coach
it is?
in Washington. Yeah.
Washington, yeah, and their offense has been electric this year.
Yeah. So, which also tells you something.
Is it sure?
So Brian Johnson and now Kellen Moore, it's not looking like it's working out with Kellen Moore. So like I agree with you. I think that okay, so here's the argument is would Howie Roseman allow Nick Sirianni to take over the offense? Howie Roseman
Holy shit,
and
did you see this play?
in the Chargers game?
Yeah.
I'm
that
watching it
is
right now.
Wild. Holy shit. Is he out?
That's a safety, isn't it?
His foot might have stepped out, but that's a crazy play.
I think he fumbled it.
They show him on the sideline. His foot,
yeah.
his toe might be out.
I don't know.
That's a wild play
Yeah.
though. Fumble right there. Sorry to cut you off. That play.
No.
stunned.
So obviously, like we were saying, it was probably Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman thing to bring in Kellen Moore. Why would Kellen Moore not go to Howie Roseman and say, "You brought me in here. I'm not calling plays"? Like, so that's the argument into is Nick really calling plays? My thing is I think Howie Roseman does know and just doesn't like. Not that he doesn't care, but I think that Howie Roseman knows that this year they're not that good, so he doesn't really care, and he gets to fire Nick at the end of the year and gets to pick the next guy when they're
Well,
probably
I
going to
don't
be
know
better next year.
I don't know that he doesn't care because like if they don't succeed, that's his ass on the line too. Like I think he wants to win.
No, I think he wants to win. I just think he's okay with making the playoffs and losing, and that way next year I can bring in another coach that I want, and we can have Quinyon Mitchell and DeJean and these young guys have another year under their belt, and I can bring in a coach next year that, and we can bring in more players next year on the defensive side, and like I just think he's looking at it differently than like a normal person would be looking at it. But again, that's just like a conspiracy of mine. I conspire against Howard Roseman a lot.
You're not a big Roseman guy.
I'm not a
well
big Howard
documented.
fan. No,
Yeah. That's well documented.
I don't think I've ever met a Howard I liked.
Howard Stern.
Well,
I liked him back in like his heyday, and he's got kind of annoying now.
See, I'm the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, I actually think he's a brilliant journalist. My biggest problem with him is he doesn't allow the interviewee or the guest to like finish a point.
Yeah.
Like he'll say like, "Where did you get the inspiration for that song?" And then they'll be like, "Well, when I was like 15, my mom brought me to this place." And then they'll like talk about it, and then he'll stop in the middle and be like, "Oh, you've been to Yellowstone? Like you wrote that song in Yellowstone? Like," and you'll be like in the middle of like this.
I'm trying to tell us. Let me tell my story.
Yeah, well, I want to hear the end of the story.
Right. I'm trying to get a different Howard. Howard Eskin, obviously, you don't like. Who
Correct.
does? What are the Howards are out there? Ryan Howard.
First name Howard.
First name Howard. Okay.
Let's look up famous
famous Howards.
Howards.
There was a wasn't there a character on Big Bang named Howard?
I hate that show.
That's a bad take. I know it's
a
popular.
bad show.
It's popular to hate Big Bang. It's nowhere near as bad as people say it is.
I don't know who Howard Carter is. The first
yeah,
one's
me
Howard Stern. Howard Carter was an archaeologist. Howard Schultz, entrepreneur. Howard Hughes, entrepreneur.
Not a lot of big Howards out there.
No.
What about Howie Long?
Howard Cosell.
About
He was a big,
Howie Long. I'm sure his name's Howard, right?
I don't know. I'm gonna guess it is.
I'm gonna guess too.
All right, he's the only Howie I like. Howard.
All right, fair enough. There's not a long list of Howards out there that are famous because that was not an impressive list.
No.
Not an impressive list. All right, let's kind of move. Oh, real quick before we finish up Eagles Hall, like how I already told you, I think they're gonna get slaughtered on Sunday. That's Sunday, right?
Yeah, 4
Yeah.
o'clock.
How are you feeling going?
Or no, they switched to 1. Or
I think
they switched to 1?
switched. I couldn't remember if they switched it to 4 or switched it to 1. I couldn't remember. It did get switched though.
So did the week after. Did you
Yep.
see that? 1
That's-
o'clock. Yeah, 1 o'clock next week.
Then the weekends of Jaguars the following week got moved to 4:05.
Yes. Yep. From Sunday night.
Yeah. Oh, it was supposed to be the Sunday night game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see
Kind of
Jaguars
alright.
Eagles Sunday night game.
Kind of all right with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with that as well.
They put the Colts Vikings Sunday night.
Colts. All right. Fair.
They should have flexed Detroit Green Bay.
Yeah, divisional game. Agreed.
Um,
So anyway, what is your feeling about this game?
I don't know because we've kind of seen the Bengals the last few years have started off terrible and kind of start to gain momentum after the first few weeks and it kind of seems like they're doing that again. My big thing is that Cincinnati cannot afford to lose any more games, so that's a little scary going into it. Can they win? Sure. Do I expect them to win? I don't know. I
just think the defense has played two anemic offenses, and now you're going up against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and an offense that can move the ball. So good luck.
Yeah.
We'll see. And I haven't seen enough from the offense to think they can like win in a shootout kind of game.
Sure. We saw it the last 2 weeks. Really, this past week. If the defensive line can get there, it's going to help the secondary out so much. Totally. I think DeJean has played great.
But last time I checked, the Bengals line's not great. But last I checked, they didn't have 5 U's out there, which is basically what the Giants rolled.
Right. Sure. Yes.
So
you're not wrong.
You know. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel that great about it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, same here.
Right.
I think if they go into the Dallas week, which is the week after Jacksonville, I believe. If they go into it, what would they be, 5-3? If they win against Jacksonville and they lose this week, they're 4-2. They're 4-2.
They're 4-2.
The Eagles, yeah.
Oh, worst 4-2 team ever. Like we all hate them and they're 4-2. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, I guess they'd be 5-3.
Like, are you happy with that going into the Dallas game?
Well, I think it makes the Dallas game that much more important.
Sure.
Although, what even is Dallas? I mean, it's pretty obvious that like, and I know Daniels got hurt, Jaden Daniels got hurt, but like Washington's the best team of the division.
They're the most complete, but we'll see. We'll see like what they are without Daniels. I don't know if he's going to play or not.
He hurt his ribs, I think. Did they say it was?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. I'm not sure.
I was watching the game when it happened, but I didn't see.
They said today that there's a possibility he could come back this week or in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Because they have Washington the week after.
Right, the week after Dallas.
Yep.
Because it's Bengals, Jaguars, Dallas,
Cowboys, Washington, LA.
All right. We could kind of move on here. Move again. You say you're not sure if you're going to want to talk Phillies. You're not. I'm just joking.
Yeah,
there's really not much new that has happened over the last week or two. Like the only thing is, and I don't remember if it happened before you guys hopped on last week or after. But the Rob Thompson extension.
Did that happen before? I think it happened.
It might have been
I think it was after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You already know my take. I think it's so stupid. And like in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? No.
Right.
But I think it's pretty much admitting that like this season was okay. And like the way it ended was okay. You're like rewarding him for bad behavior.
No, I disagree because of what was said at the end of the year press conference. Have you listened to any of it?
A
of what
little bit,
Dombrowski.
not much.
From most of what Dombrowski was saying was, and also you're bringing back everybody, you're extending Thompson, blah 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 blah. I think
I don't know how
that
Kevin Long doesn't get the scope.
well, I think that shows you, and just kind of things that like he was saying, Dombrowski, like he kind of put it on the players, and which
Sure,
that probably should be the right thing is
sure.
the players, and because they talked about Dombrowski came out and said we told them that their approach was terrible, like we know the approach was terrible, but at the same time, of all the playoff teams, the Phillies were sixth in chasing percentage, like chasing a ball out of the zone, going into, I guess, the second round, or what would be the second round, because the wild card is wild card on the first round. So following the second round, they were right in the middle of everybody that of the entire playoff, format. That they were sixth in chase rate. So it wasn't as bad as people said it was. I think they were dead last in bullpen though, in bullpen ERA.
Yes,
compared to what it was last year, which was I think number 2 or 3, something like that. So I think that he just sat there and told you that this is on the players, and I agree with it.
And if it's on the players, then it's also on him. Because like, how are you going to fix the roster? Because if it's on the players and you keep the same players,
well, I don't think they're going to keep the same players. The year before, I understand what he said on the press conference. He said, most everybody's going to be back. Blah 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 blah. We think we're good enough. Blah 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 blah. The year before, he also said we're not going to spend money. And what did they do? They went out and gave Yamamoto the highest contract offer. He just didn't sign it. So I think Dombrowski's that guy that's been around long enough to know that I'm not just going to throw out all my cards and put it out there, and we're going to work on things. He knows that Bohm didn't play well enough. He knows from the end of the season, like halfway, what was it, the end of August on, like he knows that. Like he knows that JT hasn't been JT in 2 years. He knows that Stott had a down year. He knows that Brandon Marsh strikes out too much, and
Brandon Marsh trade is looking really bad, isn't it?
Was that the Ohapi one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, but at the time, you needed an outfielder with speed and who has a decent glove, and you had a catcher.
Yep.
So,
I just look at it like Marsh is just a below average player. Like I just say, like
he is.
He's not a good hitter. He's a decent enough fielder. And you see JT's kind of rapid decline, and maybe it's because he spent maybe he was really banged up or whatever the reason may be. But it seems like he's declining. Where like you could have, Ohapi's been really really good for Anaheim. So if you kind of have him behind JT and kind of maybe put JT more in the DH spot here, first base here, and put Ohapi behind the plate, I just total strikeout.
Bring up Brandon Marsh's stats.
Okay.
Because I think
past season?
Yeah, well, yeah, just yeah. Well, we'll do the last 2.
Okay.
Well, no, we'll actually do this past year because
I'm on Baseball Reference. What do you want?
Okay, so Brandon Marsh, how many homers did he hit this year?
This year,
career high, by the way.
16. Yep.
Okay, how many RBIs?
60.
Okay, and what did he bat?
249.
Logan Ohapi, who you can look at as a catcher, and you say, okay, well, most of it's their defense. I think Brandon Marsh plays decent enough defense for me. Like, Ohapi has 20 homers this year. He had 56 RBIs and he hit 244.
Okay.
Very, very, very comparable.
Well, different position. And also, how many at bats? Or let's go plate appearances. Let's go plate appearances.
522.
Okay, more 476 for Marsh.
And Ohapi was hurt.
He was
a lot of last year and a good portion of this year.
Sure. Yep. I just look at like position wise. Like I want more out of my center fielder or even left fielder, whatever position he ends up playing. Like I expect more.
I agree with left field. Absolutely. But I don't think it's Brandon Marsh's fault that that he should not be Brandon Marsh should be your worst player. Like he should be the 9 hitter playing center field. Really, is what he should be. I don't think it's his fault that you have to count on him to win
Well,
games. Like,
I think it's partially on Dombrowski because like in the press
Sure.
conference, Dombrowski's saying him by name as like, yeah, our offense is going to kind of revolve around Marsh and Castellanos. That's essentially what he said. Like he put those two guys in the same category. Say those are gonna be the anchors of our outfield.
because but I'm okay with Brandon Marsh being the center fielder if you go out and get
every day you want him playing 140 games.
Yeah, sure, why
150
not?
games.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Put him in center field. If that guy that hits
He's not
249,
great field. Like he's fine. He's a fine fielder.
yeah, he's a decent fielder. Absolutely,
Yeah.
he's a Gold Glove finalist.
All right.
He's not better than Rojas, but he's good enough. He's good enough to play center field. He's if Brandon Marsh is your center fielder and hits ninth for you, I mean, like that just means you upgrade at left field.
Yeah.
I would take him as my ninth hitter over Johan Rojas. I really would. And I said this in our group text.
I'm not convinced Rojas starts the season in Major League.
I'm not sure he's in the major leagues next year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he might not be.
I'm not sure he's in the Phillies organization next year.
Well, I think they'll keep him around, but
I mean,
starts here
maybe
too.
he's a part of a trade. I'm saying,
Yeah.
because I think there's something there where you could dangle out there. Oh, is it rookie year at 300? Kind of lucked into that a little bit.
He's still
Plays
fairly
good
young.
defense. Yeah, has a lot of speed. It just he can't get on base. But
He's everything, and I don't mean this as a knock on Rojas, but he's everything. And this, I'm not propping him up either. He's everything that the Phillies wanted Roman Quinn to be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
Roman Quinn had game-changing speed. He just sucked
everywhere else. Sucked.
I
I don't think Rojas sucks everywhere else. I think he's a really, really good defender, and he's like a below average hitter.
I don't know that he's a below average hitter.
Think he's worse than that?
Yeah,
Like how worse?
I do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but what was I was going to make a point here. Yeah, I just think that Dombrowski's telling you that Marsh and Castellanos are going to be, the guys for our outfield, blah 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 blah, because they're going to look to upgrade left field. I think that's the one thing they do this offseason. I do think, and I don't think it has to be a huge move. I don't think it has to be like Juan Soto. I really don't. I've said it in the group chat. Teoscar would love Teoscar Hernandez. Would love Brent Rooker. They're going to bring Bohm back next year. Bohm's going to be here next year. Stott's going to be here next year.
Probably, yeah.
But if you go out and get Teoscar or Rooker, you can say to Brandon Marsh, "You're my nine hitter."
Free agent, or is that got to be a trade?
What's that?
Teoscar, he's a free agent.
He is he signed a 1-year deal with the Dodgers. Yeah, we'll see if he resigns. But
Rookie's got to be a trade, correct?
Correct. But I just think like if you slot one of those guys in, either of the two, you have Schwarber, Turner, Harper, one of those two guys, Castellanos, JT, Stott, Bohm. Not specifically the lineup, but
Sure.
And then Marsh. If Marsh is your worst player, hitting 17 homers, hitting 249, playing good defense in center field, what were his other stats? 60 RBIs, like, and that's playing on limited time. Like, there was a point in the season where, and I'm not like this Brandon Marsh lover or like going to bat for Brandon Marsh, but like, he's a better baseball player than Johan Rojas is. I'll take the lefty struggles and out with him out there every day, because you know what? At least he can hit right-handed pitching. There was a stat that was out there at one point this year that the strikeouts were a real thing for Marsh this year, but when he put the ball in play, he hit 345 against right-handed pitching this year.
Yep.
But the strikeouts were a real thing, and not being able to hit lefties was a real thing. So I would take the struggles. I would take a little bit of less production than what he did last year. If that means he had to play against lefties and play every day and give you decent defense in the outfield. Okay. But only if they really upgrade left field.
Right.
And then really quick, going back to because I know you do want to talk a little bit of Flowers, but I do too. But going back to the Thompson thing, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't matter that they gave him an extension because they could just fire him at the end of the year. But I don't think that ever happens. I just
I
think
don't think it does either.
why though?
Um,
Because you don't
I
think you don't think it matters. Not that it doesn't matter to them, but like, let's say the
I
same
think they
thing
just
happens
like
next
him
year.
too much. I just
Okay.
think they like him too much.
I think it's gonna be. I agree with that, but I think that if the year next year ends, let's say it's a similar thing, like they win the division and they lose in the first round or the second round and their first round. I genuinely do think they like him enough to say, all right, well, we're not gonna fire you, but you know probably just retire. Like we're gonna. I genuinely think that's how
Why?
he's gonna go out.
Why give him the extension in the first place?
The same reason you hire anybody. Because if next year goes really, really well and they get to a World Series or win a World Series, you have him for another year. There's no reason not. There's no negative to it. There's no negative to it because they could just fire him.
I just think optics. Like I just think of rewarding whatever just happened in the playoffs or the season.
But it's not on him.
You get fired and hired based on results. He didn't get results.
But again, he doesn't go up there and swing the bat. Like
Sure.
it's so much different than football. Like
Sure.
football. The coach. This is his offense. This is his. Go out. I'm going to call this play, and that's. Obviously it's up to the players to execute. But like
Doc Rivers doesn't shoot the ball.
Right, but his coaching, his scheme does not work.
All right, maybe Thompson's philosophy or pitching
But it has
matchups and maybe it doesn't though.
But it has.
It worked
It's proven
once.
to work.
It worked once in
It worked
2022.
3 times.
And then it didn't work 3 times. They gave 5, 6, 7, and then one of this year, or maybe was it just 6, 7? I think it was just 6-7 last year. But and then games 1. I don't even know what games it was this year. But it was just it has like I don't know.
It has worked. That's the thing. They missed the playoffs for 11 years. 11 years.
Yes, we had some very dark days. I get
And
that.
then they were 500 for 3 straight years before he came here. And then he comes here halfway through the year and they make a World Series. Like that there's something there. I think you're a little too harsh on it. I do.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
But
I just look at the result and like they've gotten worse every year. And even the year in 2022 when they did make it, I still disagree with we talked about it. Every single move he made, I thought was idiotic and dumb. They just worked out.
Right.
It worked out. So
Sure.
you had to keep him around. I get that, but they're starting not to work out anymore.
But he did something this year that you specifically have asked him to do.
Adapt and change
A lot.
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he did it, and it didn't work out. So what do you want him to do? It's not always going to work out.
Sure. Like again, I'm not surprised or even angry that Thompson's going to be here again for another year because I didn't think they'd fire him in the first place. But I expected somebody's, head essentially, for lack of a better term. Like, and I mentioned it earlier. Like, how is Kevin Long? Like, I know they like him, and you hear the Trey Turner and blah blah blah. But like, this team has one of the worst approaches in bait. Like, how is Kevin Long still employed?
But they've already come out and said this is on the players. We've already gone over their approach halfway through the series.
Then your message isn't getting across.
But here, I'll give you one big thing that I'll knock Thompson for. It's the lack of playing Stott. Like I think Stott, if you look at his lefty matchups, year 1 and 2. He's actually pretty good. Like I think he's at like 284 one of those years and like 270.
I would play him more against lefties personally.
So that's one big knock I have on him. But this is sports and baseball really in general with veterans. If you go to Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, it's on them to make the adjustment. I
agree to a certain extent.
Wait. So it's Kevin Long can go to them and say, listen, guys, this is what you have to do. Those 4 guys, JT 5, those 5 guys are going to turn around and say, I've been a veteran in this league for X amount of years. It was you saw it with Trey Turner last year. It was before the like standing ovation or whatever. There were things that came out that said like Kevin Long is telling him to make adjustments, and this is what's got him here. So Trey Turner's going to continue to do what he does because he's a $300 million player, and that's what he gets paid to do, to figure it out. I think the players like Stott, Marsh, Bohm, the younger guys that aren't on that aren't the veterans, that don't have the big contracts, they're the ones that have to go into the batting cage and say, okay, I need to genuinely consider what he's telling me, right? Like, I don't know, man. They broke a record last year for home runs in a single month. Like, Kevin Long, I don't think Kevin Long is the problem. I really don't. I think it's the players the Nick Castellanos who always chase out of the zone. I think it's up to him, the guy that's been in the league for 14 years or 13 years, to have an approach and say, like, I can't swing at that. Because if we both sit here and really say that, like, Kevin Long isn't in a fucking room telling him, what are you swinging at? Like,
he's probably telling him, but my point is, like, it's his job to get him to get it. You know what I mean?
You can't force that though. Like
and it's on the player, and then get rid of the player.
That's not on Kevin Long.
Oh, sure, it's on somebody.
Who?
It's anybody,
right?
If that's what's happening,
why is that Kevin Long's fault?
Because I've seen them have the same exact approach night in, night out, and it not work. So somebody has to fall on the sword.
95
somebody
wins,
has to.
They won a division.
They were the most mediocre team in baseball from July to October.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, look at the season that Kyle Schwarber had. Probably his best season of his career.
Home runs were low.
Look at
overall, I agree.
38 home runs, dude.
Yeah, 46 year before 30. That.
Okay.
Is that not a little down?
You want to hit 70 every year?
I said 46.
But going from 46 to 38 isn't going from 46 to 25.
I said it went down a little bit. And I'm not a math guy, but 38 is less than 46.
I understand, but like, you know how that works, dude. Like the Judge had a 72-year home run year, but the year before he had 28. Like come on. Like that's the difference. 38 and 46 is it's successful, man. It's Harper was gonna break 40 at one point, but he got hurt.
Yeah.
Like it's baseball. It's baseball.
Again, it doesn't even specifically have to fall on Kevin Long, because I understand it's hard to kind of break these 12, 13, 14-year veterans of their habits. I get that. But when I see the way the season ended, again, like I said, mediocre from July to October, I think somebody, whether it's a player, coach, GM, manager, anybody, somebody has to fall on the sword. Somebody. And it remains to be seen on if it's a player or not.
I disagree because
how can you run it back? They did it the last
I'm not saying you do run it back. I'm telling you have to add an outfielder. It doesn't have to be Juan Soto, but it has to be somebody of substance, like Rooker or Tasker or somebody like that. My thing is, I think that you, me, and the whole city saw mid-April to mid-June,
and it was incredible.
And said it was incredible, but that was the outlier. Like that wasn't normal. This is what they were. You know what? The Yankees were even worse than the Phillies in July, and from July to August, they were even worse. Sure. So like, it happens. It's baseball. Like, you and I don't talk about this if the Phillies are still in it. Like,
of course not.
Right?
Because they wouldn't have done things to lose. They would have won. They'd be in the World Series right now.
I understand.
The results-based business.
I totally understand. And they underperformed. I'm not disagreeing with that. But that doesn't mean you just fire everybody and you start over, because you know what? Like, this is the core now. Like they have 2 years left of this. Like, it's they have a 5-year window. Like, this is what the core is, and this is what the 5-year window is. You have 2 years left of it. I mean, like, you know, they've been successful the last 3 years. What outside of last year, like I mean, were you really shocked that they lost the series to the Mets? Honestly,
was I shocked? And what? No, because the Mets were hot and the Phillies were not. But hold on. Yes, because the Mets were hot and the Phillies obviously were really cold. You know, they kind of limped in the last month or two of the season. But at the same time, you look roster to roster, They are far better than
But
the
you
New York
can't
Mets. They're
sit here
far
and
better.
say
They're
they
far better
sucked.
than the New York Mets.
But you can't sit here and say they sucked from
I said
July
they're mediocre. I said they're
to
mediocre. I didn't say
September.
they sucked. I said they're
But,
mediocre.
come on, man. Oh my God! You can't say they're mediocre and then sit here and say, "Well, I'm upset that they lost to the red hot Mets." I'm sorry, it doesn't work both ways. And also, um, aside from last year, 2 years ago, or I'm sorry, aside from last year, I think this year stung, but it didn't hurt the way that last year did. 2 years ago stung, but it didn't hurt the way it hurt last year. So
Well, of course, yeah, because last year they literally gave the series away.
right,
Yeah.
but it's just I don't know, man. I don't think you just fire successful guys. I don't. Thompson has been in locker rooms that have won World Series. Dombrowski's been to
What
five.
if they do? What if they do the same exact thing next year? No, and I don't want your
He
answer. Like what you
retires.
think? What?
He retires. I think they tell him you're fired,
That's
but
not even good enough. Fire him.
it's never going to happen. He's got too much respect. That's my point. I'm not saying they won't. They might sit him in a room and say, we're going to part ways, but it's going to come out that Rob Thompson has decided to retire because he's well respected in this sport. Dombrowski's been to 5 World Series as a GM, not an executive, as a GM, not as somebody in the front office, as a general manager. Name me another guy in the MLB that has been to 5 in the last 25
It's
years.
2024. When's the last one? 07? What?
He's been to a World Series.
Who was that with?
The Phillies.
I meant before he got here, obviously.
2014.
Okay, with the Tigers.
Yep, went to back with the Tigers.
All right.
Or 2013, whatever it was.
All right. So I'm sorry to make you yell. I didn't think you had this in you about the Phillies.
No, it's more. You piss me off more than anything.
I wear it as a badge of honor. Let's move on because we don't have much time left,
Yeah.
and I want to get a little bit.
And then we have a whole off season to
Flyers. Yes,
for them to piss us off. So
exactly, I'm sure it'll happen. When they trade for another mediocre left fielder that isn't up to your standard.
That's a problem. The trade deadline hitters were a problem the last 2 years.
Yes.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is Dombrowski has so much, is so good at this and has such a history that you have to give him another opportunity. You have to give him the opportunity to say, I think it's the very end of the patience, but.
All right, I'm moving on because I don't want to piss you off anymore.
I'm not,
or I don't want you to piss me off anymore.
Okay.
Well,
we're about to talk about the Flyers. So
that's true. That's true.
You might piss yourself off.
What are they now? 1, 2, and 1.
Yeah, they have 3 points, right?
Yes. Yep. You're really you're seeing how can I start this? They have no centers, none on their
Zero.
roster. Zero. It's terrible.
Because the one guy gets sent back down,
Luchenko.
Yeah,
he's gonna probably
which is I think the best option personally.
I'm hit or miss.
So, okay, go ahead. Finish your point. Well.
On Luchenko?
No. On the Flyers.
They just that's what I do.
Okay.
They have no centers. Sean Couturier, his contract is going to go down as one of the worst the Flyers have ever handed out. Yeah, it's bad.
Okay, so the Luchenko thing. I don't think it matters. This year doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but I understand last year there were halfway through the year there were expectations of them to make the playoffs. So I think going into this year, we kind of expected the similar thing where there's an outside chance that they make it. Maybe they get bounced in the first round, but it's always good to make the playoffs and stuff. I think that this year doesn't. The only thing that matters for this year, or the most important thing, is obviously Michkov, right? I think sending Luchenko back down. I think, and Danny Briere is kind of. I don't know. Was this a public thing? He told somebody this. I read it the other day. I don't know if this was him telling it to the media or just telling it to somebody. Who was it? Or maybe they said it on the broadcast on the pregame. Somebody was getting on an elevator. Somebody was getting on an elevator with Briere, and as they were getting on the elevator, they said, "Well, what about Luchenko? It looks really good." And he's like, and apparently Briere told this. I think it was somebody. It might have been Scott Hartnell or somebody on the broadcast, and said, "Yeah, I'm not worried about Luchenko. in 5 weeks. I'm worried about Luchenko in
Yeah.
5 years.
I heard this quote. Yeah.
So I kind of agree with that because I think you can become Scott Lawton if you are here too early. I think it's really good to get him. Let me make my point.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good to get him back into a league where he can learn how to dominate. He could help his scoring a little bit more because you can't ask a fresh 18-year-old to come out and score 40 plus goals.
Well, I don't think they're asking him to do that. And I don't think he'll
They're not
ever
even
score.
asking.
I don't
I'm
think
saying
he'll ever score 40 goals.
right. But I'm not saying they're asking him that. But what I'm saying is, I think he can be a guy that could be a really great player for you. Not great player, but I think he could be a very good player for you.
I think he's another Mike Richards. That's kind of what he reminds me of.
Okay. So I just think whether it's the goal scoring, whether it's the playmaking, whatever it is, I think can get better. I don't know that having him in the NHL right now helps or hurts him. I think if you send him back down and you say, go dominate that league, go play in the World Juniors or whatever. Well, or
Your
what's
parents and your cat.
what's the what's it the World Juniors where they
the World Juniors. Yeah.
go play in the World Juniors, and then we'll see you next year. Because I think that another year to get bigger, another year to get faster, another year to and I think he can play in the NHL. I do. I just don't think there's a benefit.
He hasn't looked out of place. I'll say that.
No, but he hasn't looked great either.
He's had some really good moments, and he's had some really not so great moments.
Sure. So I think that I think sending him down because you don't need him this year is what is really my point. So if you don't need him, why keep him around if you could send him down to go dominate somewhere else to learn how to dominate? And
because I think Torts thinks they need him because as I just mentioned, they have no centers. Their centers stink.
But that's a problem because that's a problem if your head coach thinks you're actually good enough.
They're competitive.
They're not.
No, I understand they're not. But when there's a difference between front office putting together a team that isn't competitive and they know it, whereas like coaches and athletes are going to try to win every single game that they can.
Sure,
it's just built in them. So he might. I think he knows that they're not competitive, or I think he knows they don't have Stanley Cup aspirations. But I think he wants to win
every night. Absolutely.
I think he wants to win every game.
Yeah, of course. But I think that's also, as a head coach, you should also be a little realistic too.
Sure.
I think you do what's best for the player, and I personally think sending him down is the best thing for him.
See, this is the argument
as a first round pick.
This is the argument that like I go back and forth on of like, can you call a guy up too early? More often than not, I think a guy is either going to be great or he's not, regardless of when he starts playing. Personally, I'm sure there's examples on both sides of the coin that probably prove my theory and probably go against it.
Sure. Which is why I don't think there's a clear answer.
There isn't a clear answer.
Right?
No, there isn't.
Because every player is different.
Right. Exactly.
Every sport.
Yep. Yeah. So
it's kind of like the argument, like, do you allow, because like the NBA, right? The NBA and the NHL, those are two sports, and obviously the MLB, but it doesn't happen as much in the MLB as it does in the NHL and the NBA, where you have 18-year-olds that come out and play day one, right? Like 18, 19-year-olds. Is there an argument where a 16-year-old can come out and play? And I think that majority of the 16-year-olds, because they're obviously soccer's a different sport, but like over in Europe, a lot of kids that are 16 kind of start pro. I think that the argument with the NHL and the NBA is like there are too many cases where a kid that's 16 probably becomes a great player or a better player between 16 and 18. Like Tyrese Maxey is a good example, like where at 16 he probably wouldn't be able to play in the NBA, but at 19 he would because of the years of development. Sure. I personally think those development years are important, and I think most guys are, between 18, 19, 20. Like I think those are really important development years, and I just think I just don't think having Luchenko, I'm not upset with it if they would keep him, but I just think it helps him and the organization more than anything, and I want Torts to understand for the player's aspect that this might help the player in the future.
Mm-hmm.
rather than help me tonight.
Right. No, sure. I just it's what do you do with the center position though? Because like they're so bad, like so bad. You know what I mean?
What do you do in terms of like if
So
you're
this year,
Tortorella or
yes,
if
yes,
you're
yes. What do you like?
what can you do? You can only put the guys out there that are
Yeah,
you know. But again, like
I'm
as the head coach, you're gonna have or the head coach, you're gonna have to understand that like you know
and like they haven't really done it. I don't think they've really done it at all yet. But like it's put Luchenko and Mitchkov together. They haven't done it, but you look at like the centers they play with, and like Morgan Frost could be the good player of him, but like Morgan Frost hasn't really been that great.
no
Couturier, I want him far away from. So like, I would just try the two of them to get Luchenko and Mitchkov and see if we get Mitchkov going, because Mitchkov still looks a little. I don't know if timid's the right word, but like he just looks unsure of himself at times.
sure
I want him to get more comfortable, and I think having a center that can make plays and get him the puck, I think is going to help him and the team. So I don't know, and I don't know if they have the right guy to play with him right now.
right. But I think that's a part of the process.
Don't use that word.
But it is a process. It's not
No,
the
sure.
process. It is a
Yeah.
process. So
Yep.
I did, that's what I think last year hurt them a lot. I
Yeah.
think not hurt them because obviously successful season or somewhat of a more successful season than I or maybe some people have pictured that they would have last year.
Sure.
But that's what kind of hurt them last year is going into this year saying, oh, we almost made the playoffs last year. We probably should have made the playoffs last year. Maybe we could actually do that again. And I think Torts looks at that as, like you're saying, like as a head coach that, wants to win every night. He looks at how they played last year and has that thing where he stays up every night, probably saying we can definitely do that again. And
Yeah.
having Luchenko probably helps that. But
And
I just
he
don't
also
think that
likes speed. Like
yeah, of course.
they're not a very fast team, and he brings that's one element of the game he brings. He's
Yeah.
fast. So
Yeah, I just think it's the rebuild, like the rebuild, the retooling, rebuilding. It's
Mhm.
I think that's just a part of the process. I think
Yep.
So
I agree. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. They play
yeah,
tomorrow.
6:00.
6:00.
Washington. Yeah, they're on ESPN or
Play tomorrow at 6:00.
yeah, and then they play Washington back to. I don't know if they play back to back nights, but I know they play them back to back. I think it's home and home. But tomorrow's 6, and then when's the next game after that?
Oh, tomorrow is when they're doing their Frozen Frenzy.
I don't know what that is.
It's what they did last year, where they kind of do like I think it's on ESPN. They do like a red zone style, like a night of hockey where they scatter the games. So the first game is the Flyers Capitals, 6:00.
Yeah.
Next game's at 6:30, then 6:45, then 7:15. They space them out by 15 minutes. So this way everybody can kind of hop back and forth between each game. And they do like a red zone style where like they're paying each game depending on where it is in the game. It's really cool.
Am I able to just watch the Flyers?
Yeah, the Flyers will just be on. Yeah, that might be on the ESPN 2 or something.
Okay.
But yeah, the Flyers are on regular ESPN.
Or maybe their own, like on NBC Sports, maybe?
I don't. It says ESPN, so
Okay.
yeah, it says ESPN and ESPN Plus, but it's probably like ESPN 2 is probably the Frozen Frenzy.
Yeah.
But the Flyers didn't. I don't think the Flyers played in the Frozen Frenzy last year, so I was able to kind of watch every game as it was happening. It was cool. So that's why there's 75 games on tomorrow, and only one tonight. The NHL schedule makes no sense.
What's that? Toronto,
Tampa.
Yeah. They just did. I'm watching the Baltimore Tampa game, and they just last commercial break. They posted something about tomorrow night's hockey. I saw Flyers, Caps, but yeah.
Yep. All right, you got anything else? Flyers you wanted to talk about before we get out of here?
So.
I mean, Mitch Golf is exciting and fun to watch. I haven't really seen it much yet, but
looks like Urson or whatever his name is.
Urson, yeah.
He looks like he could be a solid like backup.
Yeah.
What about this really quick? What about this kid in Russia that they drafted last year?
What the fuck?
It begins with a Z.
Zavragan. I probably butchered that.
Yeah.
He's putting up like stupid numbers as a 19-year-old in the KHL, which doesn't
Okay.
happen ever.
Yeah, which like obviously goalies are like throwing shit at the wall and seeing
Mhm.
what sticks. They could be great or not.
And they drafted
Much
him in,
like
like they
pitchers.
drafted him in like the 5th round too. So
I
like,
thought it was the second round.
was it?
I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Hold on.
Because I looked him up the other day and I was like, I don't know who this guy is. And I'm like, oh, they took him in the second round. But maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Hold on. You might be right. They took another goalie later in that draft. I might be confusing them. Hold on. Igor Zavragan.
I'm holding.
3rd round.
Third round.
87
Okay.
overall, yeah. So we were both wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, he's putting up stupid numbers as like a 19-year-old in the KHL, which doesn't happen.
And then this kid in for the fan or for
Kolosov.
yeah. Obviously we know his story didn't want to play for the or apparently didn't want to play for the Phantoms, wanted to either play for the big club or go back to where was it, Russia or Belarus or something, or
Yeah.
Belarus or whatever.
Belarus,
whatever the fuck that country is.
It's the yeah. He'd go back.
Russia
to the
will be there soon anyway.
He would go back to the KHL, but like
Russia's gonna come in soon, so
yes,
it's gonna be Russia soon.
The rumor is like in order to get him over here, the Flyers basically said like you're gonna get an opportunity. There's a chance you're gonna get an opportunity.
Yeah,
to play in NHL games before like November 1st. I think is the date that they set.
Well, he also came over like a week before the fucking season started,
yeah.
so like you'd expected he'd probably get some time in the AHL.
Yeah,
and he'd probably have to understand.
Apparently, they have until like November 1st to kind of like wow him over essentially, and like they could end up loaning him back to the KHL for the.
But isn't he here already? Isn't he with the Phantoms?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like in order to get him over, they kind of have like a agreement in place.
Right.
Like, hey, if you're not happy by November 1st, like we'll give you opportunity, and if if it doesn't work out by November, I think it was November 1st, and then we'll loan you back to your team.
Time is a ticking here.
Time is a ticking.
But what's his deal? Is he like any?
He's promising.
Is he like? I mean, he's like.
He's better than Phired Up, I think, personally.
Well, he blows.
Yeah, he's not good. Not good. Only a couple games, but not good.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't. I'm obviously goalies are very hard to tell until you see them. I'm just curious to see if any have like the pedigree or like the expectation of like a Carter Hart, you know.
Kolosov has some pretty high expectations.
Did he?
Yeah.
Or does he?
Yeah, and when they drafted Zavragan, or I think I'm saying that right, or is it, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Zavragan, it's got to be Zavragan. When they drafted him, there really wasn't much hype, but with what he's done so far this season, people are now saying he's the Flyers' best goalie prospect.
Okay,
and they just drafted Carson Bjarnason like 2 years ago in like the 2nd round.
Okay. All right, well, that's a lot of names for me.
Oh yeah, well,
a lot of hieroglyphic names here.
Yes. Carson Bjarnason, Alexei Kolosov, and then Igor Zavragan.
And then who? And then
I got your mind on a pretzel right now.
Dude. And then so they have Urson.
Yep.
And who's the other one again?
Phired Up.
A
lot of Russians.
Yes.
Ed Snyder's turd in his grave right now.
This feels like Rocky 5.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So I'm excited. Who am I excited for?
Kolosov or Zavragan.
Okay, and the other kid is not.
Bjarnason, I don't know. I don't know. I need to see more. Like he's playing in Canadian juniors, and goalies like stats are weird up there. Like I can't because you're playing with like 15, 16-year-olds.
Right.
I need to see it against men. I don't know.
Sure.
All right. Well, you ready to get out of here?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that does it for this week, and we will see everybody next Monday. Go check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Phired Up Sports. Check out firedupsports.com, and we will see everybody next week. See you then.